1994 Acura NSX. Oh man, if I was a baller, I'd spend $50,000 on a surgical clean early 90s NSX, jack it up on bags of rice, drape 3 car covers over it, wait 1 presidential term, and sell it for 100 G's, son!
You say we're crazy, and yeah, a little bit actually.
For most of us who were growing up in the late 90s, the only time we really saw this car was from the back on Gran Turismo 1 when the computer is beating you. So when you see a first-generation NSX in real life, you're surprised that it's so small. It's about the size of a Chevrolet Corvette C6, perhaps a little bit smaller, but the NSX has a reputation for being bigger than it is, like R. Kelly's dick. Now the NSX is Honda trying desperately to make a Ferrari on their own, although both Honda and Ferrari will insist this isn't the case. Designed by Pininfarina, the same company that did the Ferrari 360 Modena, the NSX is as beautifully formed as the aqueducts in Rome. There's a sense of continuity in every stitch, and the layout guides your eyes and leads you directly what you want to see. No, seriously. When you're sitting right here in the driver's seat, this is the greatest interior I've ever seen. Look. There's an unbroken line that starts here at your left hand, runs up past the vents, over, and then it meets up with the top of the gauge cluster, and then it continues over to the right where it meets your hand again, and it all flows down into the center console right to the gear shifter. It's one gigantic apex that looks forward into the future, down the road. And it's not as if everything's angled toward the driver. The dash, with the exception of the instrument pod, slopes away from you. Now what that does is it makes a very small interior feel larger than it is. You're in control here, just like you were in the sit-down vector graphics Star Wars arcade game as a kid. That's a mid-engine car, so it has a frunk, and you can put stuff in it if you don't care what happens to it. It's the same approach I take to my scrotum, since I don't plan on having kids or owning a dog or getting married, because being someone's life preserver is not what I call progress. Back to the interior. I'll get to the exterior in a minute. The glove box here is an elegantly simplistic thing. It opens up in butterfly style, but it also opens from the top down. No delaying it. Get in and drive. What is it like? It's slower than you think. How much power? 250, 270 horsepower, that's it, and not too much torque. It's the way it corners. Even though it's small, it's not small like Miata or MR2 small, but it feels that small. And the NSX is low to the ground, and I mean low. It's lower than Atlantis, lower than minimum wage. It's lower than undergraduate dignity. Little John thinks the NSX should get less low. It doesn't have zippy steering, it has compliant steering. There is very little body roll, but the body ride doesn't shake. It's not an uncomfortable ride. In fact, this is one of the most comfortable cars I've ever ridden in. It's bored with simple corners, in the same way an AP Bio student would be bored with applied science. This NSX desires more than a challenge than these mid-state PA roads can offer it. The snugness and the wide windshield and the excellent visibility, this is the closest any of us will get to ride in an F-16. There are no clever cubby holes for your packages of garbage pail kids and 110 cameras. Here's another thing. The gear shifter on an NSX, the footprint of the gear shifter is only as large as it needs to be. Most other cars that are manual showcase the shifter. Ooh, yeah, I'm so proud of you, you're driving a manual. Not this, of course it's manual, why wouldn't you be? It's unobtrusive, compliant, very Honda Accord-like, yes. There are echoes of the Honda Accord in the Acura NSX. Well, first off, it has the pillowcase airbag, but thank you, owner, for not replacing it with some dumb knockoff steering wheel. And also, thank you you to the owner for keeping that tape deck right there in the center of the dash where it belongs. And the owner still has the original spare tire in here. I mean, it's not like he can use it AAA as his spare tire. But back to how compliant the NSX is to drive. Feel free to redline it whenever you want. Because yes, it's VTEC, but this is before VTEC was VTEC. VTEC. This is way before VTEC showed up in tattoo parlor portfolios. There's no jarring bar fight, sucker punch jump at 6,000 RPM. Watch. This is me taking a Acura NSX to redline.
Yes.
It smoothly revs all the way to the top. Very E30-like. Because the NSX is the little engine that could. It forges onward in spite of an absent legacy. It would have been perfectly acceptable for Honda never to make this. I mean, 1994. The Civic is unstoppable. The Accord is a world beater. The Prelude SI succeeded in making a vehicular spanker chief in real life and in Gran Turismo 1. The NSX is a car that didn't need to happen. And yet, like Daniel Bryan, Honda had something to prove, to show it could hang with the big boys, and that it deserved a seat at the grown-up table. It's like Christian von Koenigsegg doesn't have to work again for the rest of his life. He owns the patent to flex fuel. He could just sit back and reel in the cash, but instead, he chooses to innovate because it's not enough just to be financially secure, because we're all chasing that mechanical dragon, and so it is with Honda and the NSX. They could have rested on their laurels. No one was demanding they made this car. And yet they did. That speaks volumes. It's cliche, sure, but this is a go big or go home kind of car. And it's perfect for navigating the deeper course riddled roads of Pennsylvania. And get your damn dirty hands off my uts. Here's another thing about the NSX. I mean, everything is perfect on here. Even the key. Look at this key. It's big, heavy, one solid chunk of metal. I don't know what kind of alloy. Just from handling it, you know this opens something. It's the means of entrance into something holy. Okay, so the engine on the NSX is a naturally aspirated V6, has an engine displacement of whatever, and a completely compliant 5-speed manual transmission. But it's the shape, it's the style of this car, because this does not look early 90s. If you want to know what timeless looks like, here it is. Look, we're just driving on a country road just south of nowhere, and this kid, it's coming up here. This kid is chipping golf balls on his front lawn, and he sees us coming. Listen. He yelps. He yelps in wonderment at this striking A-wing from long ago. That's what good styling does. So of course, we turn around and head back, and with this NSX aftermarket exhaust, I nail it. I know it has aftermarket exhaust, and the thing now with NSXs, especially when you're investing in these cars, and they are a very good investment, is to keep everything as stock as you can. I concede this thing does has aftermarket exhaust, but in the defense of that, the NSX is a quiet car. They hardly make any noise at all. Again, very Honda Accord. It's a subtle mix of loud styling and very quiet engineering. Yes, remember that. Loud styling, quiet engineering, and that's the NSX. And it all wraps up in 1994, because it's 1994 was such an amazing year. It's that kind of year that only comes along once every 3 decades or so. It's a year where car culture, pop culture, and public perception of what's good aligns. Pulp Fiction, The Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, The Lion King, True Lies, and The Mask all hit theaters. Oasis released their debut album. The Beastie Boys released the Sabotage music video, and that took over MTV's rotation in the process. Friends premiered, and the average cost of a new car was $12,350 in 1994 money. That's around $19,000 today. And the average cost of a gallon of gas was $1.09. And the PlayStation 1 came out. And The Sign by Ace of Base was the #1 song Song of the Year, and the Wonder Bra was created to provide the engine by which men would be disappointed for ages to come, and the OJ unpleasantness began. And the Blue Album by Weezer was released, along with Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails and Dookie from Green Day. 1994 was an embarrassment of riches, and this NSX from 1994 is the affordable crown jewel. And again, if I had $50,000 to blow, I would buy one of these things without thinking. Better than the stock market.
What am I been on for? I don't even know. I got a house in Skyrim close to Whiterun. Dragons all up in the sky under a white sun. NSX brings the night fun from night one. Call this spaceship the wheel DeGrasse Tyson. De Niro like De Niro, ones with 9 zeros. Flows imperial like ethereal Emperor Nero's. Champion of the weirdos, champion of the beardos. Holly Hunter Wonder, the Anna Pack with a beer. Yo, I make it rain, I got ones for days. Cheddar like a creamery, got puns for days. And if you need a favor, I can do y'all a flavor. Cause potato chip ideas, I got some fillets. I'm thrilling with this, you know I'm killing with this. I should be selling out platinum subscriptions to this. And methadone to get them off addiction to this. Cause when the rubber meets the road, I'm causing friction with this. I get these headphones off me with your trifling ass. Somebody warm the car up, I'm ready to go. So where are you guys thinking about eating after this? No, chicken cheesesteak sounds great. Alright, are you driving or... Well, we should all take the... Well, I don't see why we have to take separate cars. That's just wasting gas. Alright, fine. Alright, I'll get there first. Bye. Whatever, just go.